All right, hello everybody. Good afternoon again and welcome to our webinar on Project Polaris. You have joined today's webinar in listen-only mode, which means that you are muted and you are able to ask questions throughout, and the Project Polaris team will then get back to you within 48 hours. Before we go ahead and get started, I want to talk about the three of us. Myself, James Hartman. I'm a product marketing specialist here at Greenway. Presenting today will be Danny Shipman, our Director of Product Management, as well as Curtis Vognet, one of our Technical Business Analysts. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Danny, and he can get us started.
All right, thank you, James. So we're going to get started today with a little bit of background on Project Polaris, really just kind of set a baseline for what it is we're trying to accomplish with this project, what we've done so far. Then I'm going to give you kind of a high-level look at the roadmap and what you can expect over the next couple of years. And then we'd like to share with you today some progress that we've made, both in the form of some screenshots as well as a live demonstration of some areas of the product that have been coded to date. So for those of you who have actually been attending our regional user exchanges, this slide's going to look a little bit familiar, but I do like to start with it because I think it does set a good baseline, establish that foundation of what we're trying to accomplish. And really our mission here at Greenway is to help you achieve success in really an ever-changing healthcare environment. And Project Polaris is an investment in support of that mission. So when you think about Project Polaris, it really is an investment into what we consider the foundation of our portfolio and really the foundation of your business as well. And it's kind of follows along two tracks. You have kind of a technology track and a functionality track. Now on the technology side, really it's an investment to modernize our platform, to transform Entergy to a next generation, state-of-the-art platform that's much more open, scalable, responsive, and ultimately to be able to offer that cloud-based deployment model. Now on the feature side, it's really more of a strategic shift in focus, back to the jobs that you perform on a daily basis in your practices, and really fundamentally reevaluating the workflows that we offer to support those jobs. Now, the decision to launch this initiative really followed months of collecting input from our customers who were instrumental in deciding to develop the platform in the first place. And as you're going to see today, it will play a pivotal role moving forward. We plan to deliver the Project Polaris enhancements over a series of incremental releases between this winter and the winter of 2019. And to take advantage of the improvements as an Entergy customer, you'll simply upgrade to the next major version of Entergy as you would with any other enhancement in the past. And in this way, we plan to deliver value to you throughout the entirety of the project while really minimizing the operational impact of these changes as much as possible. For our Prime Suite and Success EHS customers, choose when and if you join us on this journey. And for those who decide to join us, we will be offering data migration at no cost. So in terms of functionality, we expect to achieve feature parity with both Prime Suite and Success EHS platforms by the fall of next year. And you'll see that both Prime Suite and Success EHS platforms will continue to be enhanced and supported. And you'll even begin to see some design patterns from Project Polaris start to be kind of introduced into key areas of those respective products. And the goal there is so that change management is a little bit less of a burden if you do decide to migrate. We will be building upon state-of-the-art microservices architecture with a primary focus on usability, really both in terms of ease of use and workflow efficiency. And microservices architecture it's software application development that's really based on smaller services that deploy independently. With each one of those carrying out a specific process related to a specific task being performed by an end user. And this approach provides really what's known as horizontal scaling, and what that means to you is it improves system performance. It also lifts a significant burden on our Greenway R&D teams, which then improves troubleshooting capabilities and really overall quality assurance. So ultimately, you put all that together, the value to you is that a platform that's built on this architecture will improve usability as well as the quality, stability and efficiency of your workflows. Now, we have the unique benefit of being able to gather insights from customers who use 3 different systems, across the Success EHS, Entergy, and Prime Suite platforms. And these customers represent the same specialties and may perform many of the same jobs, yet they also may do so with very different workflows. And so we recognize that each of these platforms has key strengths and are committed to incorporating those strengths into the roadmap for Project Polaris. And to help us deliver on that commitment and ensure that this project is truly customer-led, we have launched a customer advisory board that includes customers from all 3 products. This board is really a group of strategic advisors on both existing and new products, as well as on important industry topics. And so it extends, much broader than just the topic of Project Polaris, although that does fall within their purview as well. They ultimately serve as the voice of the customer, the end user, and the patient as well, to help inform our roadmap and guide the overall direction of Greenway as a company. We will also be forming focus groups for each concept on the roadmap, and these groups will be more focused on really the more granular details around usability and workflows to help guide our design decisions along the way. We're going to show you today how to sign up for these focus groups a little bit later in the presentation. But we currently have 36 of these groups available for you to sign up for, and we do plan to kick off the first meetings in July. So in order for us to deliver on the commitment of designing for delight, we need to understand how our customers work. So to do that, we spent 3 days with our customers, with a variety of customers rather, to better understand the jobs that they do in their practices every day, and ultimately how we can design workflows to support those jobs. Now, this was really a highly immersive approach with multiple Project 202 and Greenway resources in attendance to individually shadow various end users and observe them throughout the day. And Project 202, this is a company that actually specializes in facilitating research projects like this. They are a third-party firm that we partnered with. And their goal is to really dig in and highlight, user experience opportunities for improvement, usability opportunities for improvement, and really kind of baseline that user experience across all of the products within a particular company's portfolio, and then help you kind of build a roadmap to align back to those key themes. And so you'll see as we look at the roadmap today, much of what we have planned ultimately kind of feeds and rolls up into these themes that we identified throughout this research project with Project 202. So these shadow sessions that we held at each of these customer sites were then followed up with very detailed interviews with each of the roles that we observed. And like I said, ultimately the purpose of these sessions was to form that baseline of usability across all of our products, which we then use to identify key themes or opportunities for usability improvement that we are focusing on with Project Polaris. So just to give you a few details as to what this research project actually looked like. Over the course of this initiative, we ended up spending about 140 hours on site with customers. We interviewed and shadowed 59 people across 7 customer sites in 6 different states. And these customers did represent all 3 of the core platforms, so Entergy, Success EHS, and Prime Suite were all included as part of this research project. We then spent a few weeks synthesizing all of the data back into what we kind of call empathy and journey maps, which are basically just high-level workflow maps of what the various jobs are that the roles within your practice are performing on a daily basis, and how those kind of map back to existing product workflows, so that we can highlight areas where we have opportunities for improvement. This ultimately fed into really the key themes that you'll see here in a moment for usability improvement that we're going to focus on with Project Polaris. And ultimately, it helped guide our roadmap priorities. So over the course of this initiative, we identified 5 themes that represented those opportunities for us to improve usability and ultimately the quality of care that you, our customers, can provide to your patients. And again, you'll see these themes throughout the roadmap once we get to that section of the presentation today. The first theme comprises of what we're calling the pre-visit and the check-in customer journeys or workflows. The primary usability focus here is really all around upfront insurance verification and patient check-in. Some of the things that we heard from the interviews were that administrators in general find insurance verification complex and highly unreliable. The next theme comprises the check-in and pre-exam customer journeys. Now, these workflows are related to when the patient actually presents to your office for their visit. And the clinical staff that we interviewed here indicated that it's difficult to surface relevant information in real time. And then, to kind of go a little bit further down that workflow, when changes need to be made for that information, it is difficult to document those changes. The third theme comprises the exam and checkout customer journeys. This theme is really all about the patient encounter with the provider and focuses on the time it takes for physicians to discreetly document an episode of care while continuing to maintain that patient provider interaction that they desire, and ultimately the resulting impact that this has on physician burnout. This focus area is key as well, as it was also validated by speaking with class who ended up citing this usability, or who ended up citing usability in this area rather, as really the #1 driver of physician burnout. Now, the fourth theme comprises of the checkout and post-visit customer journeys. Similar to the third theme that we just covered, this is kind of the flip side of that coin. This area of focus would really be kind of the other angle to the data capture, which is the challenge that the back office faces of data coming to the PM system from the EHR for back office processing. So, the interviews here indicated that billing is often at odds with the provider over inaccuracies in that documentation. And so when you talk to the doctors, doctors will say things like, we're not coders, we didn't go to school to learn how to code, we don't want to spend our time worrying about this, we want to spend time with the patient and providing quality care. However, the unfortunate truth is that documentation must be accurate and structured in order for you to get compensated. And so finding a way to resolve this tension with usability improvements that kind of combine these two customer journeys holistically is really a key focus of Project Polaris. And the fifth theme comprises the post-visit and ongoing care management customer journeys. These are workflows that typically take place after the patient has left the clinic. In general, patients today are feeling much more burdened, and as they can continue to shift into really true consumers of healthcare, we're starting to see their demands and their expectations rise. This theme includes things such as referral management and integrated care coordination capabilities that really empower the care team not just to track and monitor patient behavior, but to actually impact patient behavior. Under this theme, we are also speaking with some of our more advanced customers who are already in those, some of those gain sharing agreements with payers to better understand some of the strategies that they have in place that we could maybe learn from or take advantage of. And so you'll see here that some of the things that our customers have been asking for were also identified in this research. So, for example, spell check shows up here on all three lists. General providers spend more time on data entry than the actual interaction with their patients, and a small thing that can help fix this would be improving efficiencies of the spell check tool. Obviously, it's very, very small, but you can see it showing up on all three of our platforms, something we do have planned with Project Polaris. I think the goal here is just to kind of show you that everything that you see on this list has really already been requested by our customers, was validated as a usability opportunity of improvement during the Project 202 initiative, and is being targeted for Project Polaris. And I've mentioned before at the outset of this presentation that we do recognize that each of these platforms has key strengths, and we're committed to incorporating those strengths into the roadmap for Project Polaris. This is a small example of that effort. Each of the features listed here have been brought up time and time again by our customers on each of these respective platforms as truly essential components of the system. And so our goal with Project Polaris is to not only incorporate these items or these features into Project Polaris, but to also address any outstanding key enhancement requests that are related to each of the features as well. And also just kind of evaluate the problems that these features were or are intended to solve, and ensure that the go forward solution we have in Project Polaris is optimized. Okay, so we'll kind of shift focus here and take a look at the roadmap for Project Polaris, give you guys a couple of highlights on what we have planned over the next couple of years, and then we'll transition into some of the screenshots and ultimately the demonstration. So, here at Greenway, really, we strive to differentiate ourselves by supporting you in your pursuit of the quadruple aim. Our goal is to align our corporate strategy as well as our product roadmaps with these themes, and then provide solutions that allow you to focus on the patient as a consumer of healthcare, competing with new threats such as, shifting patient expectations, retail clinics, solutions that allow you to focus on improving population outcomes, that identify and help manage those risk pools to reduce acute incidents, solutions that aid in improving quality and efficiency, lowering unnecessary tests and costs. And even the fourth and newest theme, caring for the caregivers, is really all about usability and user experience to help curb that ever increasing rate of physician burnout that we're seeing in the industry today. And so really going back to the drawing board and kind of reevaluating fundamental workflows within the EHR and the practice management system to better align them with the roles within your practice and the jobs that need to be performed by those roles is really the ultimate goal of Project Polaris and the functionality side of the roadmap. And so what I've highlighted here and over the next couple of slides are really some key themes that we're focused on with Project Polaris. You'll note that it's not bucketed into an actual release version at this point in time. We are still pretty early in the process, and as we get a little bit further down the path, we will start to take these features and provide some more granular detail around them, and then bucket that into releases for you, so you can start to form a plan, change management plan for your organization. But we did want to start to share this information with you early and get it out there, so you can start to see just the full scope of what we plan to address with Project Polaris. So, as I mentioned earlier, the roadmap for Project Polaris really follows two tracks. You have technology and functionality. From a technology perspective, essentially every aspect of the system is going to be touched along the way in what we are calling the replatforming effort. In a nutshell, replatforming just means taking the existing components of the Entergy application and moving them to the new technology stack. The most obvious impact to you as an end user from this effort is going to be the change in the user interface, which is the component of the application that you actually view and click on whenever you're using the Entergy product. This new user interface is built with responsive design concepts, meaning that it is accessible via any device and will scale to fit the screen of the device that you're using. And you're going to get a live demonstration of this today as well. So from a functionality perspective, like I said, we've identified key areas where we will be investing significant resources to really fundamentally reevaluate the way these things are done in our system. We call these our wow factors. These wow factors were largely formulated as a result of the research that we conducted in partnership with Project 202. And as you can see here, we have aligned them with the goals of the quadruple aim as well. So in the near term, we start with a heavy focus on the caregiver. Really a reimagined noting experience with smart suggestions that provide contextual and unobtrusive guidance at the point of care to ultimately improve noting efficiency and really allow the provider to focus on that engagement with the patient. An ordering system that's integrated with the note with predictive analytics and order sets. And you'll see a recurring theme as we move throughout this roadmap of really trying to make our system smarter with analytics. Immunizations with smart dose prediction and smart scheduling to handle catch-up and exception immunizations. And we'll be exploring enhanced voice recognition in pursuit of that dream goal of structured voice to text and better voice navigation capabilities. Now, the scheduling module will also be completely revamped, providing full screen to provide more information without scrolling, easily address changes with drag and drop design, bulk reschedule, bulk cancel. You'll see some of that smarter system theme with smart wait lists that really optimize the use of time and prompt users to fill canceled slots. And then some of those behavioral health needs around group scheduling and automatic no-shows to improve efficiency. We'll also begin to incorporate the aim of lowering costs with usability improvements to eligibility, which really includes just kind of overall improved searching and status, while you have some benefits management improvements that provide more of a centralized queue to manage those pre-appointment workflows and tasks. And then enhancements with patient due estimation can work to really clearly set that expectation by outlining the patient's expected amount due and give you the opportunity to obtain the payment or make payment arrangements. So as we move on to the second phase of Project Polaris, the roadmap here, and again, this is kind of extending from winter of this year to winter of 2019. So really, you can kind of bucket this across probably about 4 releases that we're planning, and we'll take a look at the timeline around that first release here in just a moment. So again, as we move on to the second phase of Project Polaris, here is where we're going to start to incorporate some of those managed care workflows and really the improved population outcomes theme of that quadruple aim. We plan to improve documentation with more of a real-time centralized approach to care plans that are powered by evidence-based care plan templates. Care management is going to be easier with easier setup of guidelines and the ability to import and reconcile those guidelines. Care coordination workflows that kind of flow naturally across episodes of care with tighter integration with the rest of the system, such as your immunizations module or noting or the care plan templates. And the OB chart, similar to the schedule, is really, we're looking to kind of revamp that as well, ultimately offering kind of a tighter integration that functions more as an extension of the patient's chart rather than a separated add-on. We also plan to improve patient confidentiality with specialized permissions by role and discrete data segmentation really at the data element level, such as the diagnosis, the problem, or the medication, with permissions that really persist across care settings. So, in other words, when the information is shared, the permissions live with it. So the idea here is that, whenever you're transmitting patient data to other care settings, you can kind of control all the way down at the individual data element level, the individual problem or diagnosis or medication, what gets sent, what doesn't, and you can kind of formulate those permissions by the individual you're sending it to. We also have some plans around flow sheets and graphs to really just kind of modernize the visualization, provide better trend prediction and support for additional data types to show up there. And again, you'll see some more progress towards a smarter system with enhancements to our clinical decision support capabilities that provide that actionable insight there at the point of care. We also have plans to increase your revenue potential with electronic patient statements and payments, including text notifications of new balances and statements with the ability to pay that balance without having to log into a portal. And then kind of rounding out the roadmap here with phase 3, this phase will be a little bit heavier with technology changes as we kind of finish out the technology roadmap in conjunction with the functionality roadmap. And the themes here really apply to more specific customer segments. So you have case management enhancements that really provide a means for organizing all information for a patient's episode of care, while referral management provides that centralized view that integrates the referrals and the orders process to really effectively close that referral loop. We also have a heavy focus on enterprise, and really enterprise enhancements are more of a pervasive theme throughout the duration of the entire project that we will be addressing incrementally. It's just here at the end that we kind of see it come into fruition and put that bow on it. A few highlights around some of the enterprise plans. Just some general enhancements to the data structure and controls, work queues and workflow automation, centralized file administration, and then on the clinical side, some enhancements to the shared clinical history across multiple facilities to make that process a little more smooth. So now I wanted to kind of turn our attention to really what we have accomplished to date, talk you through a second research initiative we conducted with Project 202, show you a few screenshots, and then I'll turn it over to Curtis for the demonstration. So after we conducted the baseline study with Project 202 to establish that usability baseline, we actually brought them back in for a second, more targeted study. And this one was really centered on the noting process. And really, we didn't just limit it to the note. We kind of called it just the overall, physician documentation process, or the physician's day. So really what we did here is we partnered with Project 202 to host 6 physicians, across multiple product lines, to come into our Tampa headquarters and spend 2 full days with us, just kind of going through and doing a deep dive into the documentation process. This really was a collaborative process, with us working, side by side with our customers and Project 202 to really get at the heart of that noting problem and focus on getting it right. Ultimately, what this produced was a concept design that really gave us, 3 main takeaways that we then have applied, to our roadmap themes for the noting concept. And those 3 takeaways were really, creating more of a cockpit for the physician. So creating a way for them to have just kind of a single location that they stay in throughout the entirety of their day, and they're able to, very quickly and easily reference or incorporate any aspects of a patient's chart without having to leave what they're doing. Was kind of the dream solution there. And really that kind of bleeds into that tighter integration with the rest of the chart. So don't make them bounce around and go to so many places. And then you'll see, again, that recurring theme of make your system smarter. So smart suggestions that provide that contextual, guidance right there at the point of care, but also make it unobtrusive, so it's not like, so you don't suffer from alert fatigue. So what you see here is, this is not, working code or coded software by any means. This is very much an early design concept, but this was kind of the output of that workshop. And again, really, we kind of walked away with really 4 main themes that we're kind of using to guide our roadmap decisions for the enhancements to the noting aspect of the EHR. The first one is all about setting the providers up for success. The idea here was to make it a little bit easier to get started. We have a lot of data in our system around the patient's history, around the context of the patient's visit that day, and we can use that information to, help with chart prep and really make it easier to start that encounter, so that you're not spending time, early in the morning or the night before prepping your charts to get ready for the day. There was also this idea of really letting them drive while keeping their place. So, don't force them down a path or through a wizard. Alert or remind them in non-intrusive ways, and then let you decide when to act. And we kind of alluded to it a little bit just a moment ago, but the idea of keeping your place, and so kind of creating that note as the cockpit. And so you can see here, this design concept kind of introduces a few different aspects or a few different takes on that theme, where each of the call outs are specific references to things that a physician might want to reference during the noting process. And the idea is that we kind of treat these as little pop outs or drawers, as we call them, where you're still within the note. It's not taking you out of the screen that you're in, but you're able to reference this information essentially at any point during that encounter without having to leave. There was also this idea of kind of using the a shopping cart approach. It's pinnable and kind of follows you throughout the system, so you can pretty much at any point in time, create orders or create a task or create referrals or any of those activities you might need to do that would require you to go to a different screen today. And so now I'll walk you through a few screenshots of actual coded software with Project Polaris today. So this screenshot is the patient's face sheet in the EHR. And really what we tried to do here is incorporate concepts from Prime Suite, Success EHS, and Entergy. You'll see kind of aspects of each of those systems represented here. Prime Suite kind of gave the dark side bar there on the left, and Success EHS rather contributed more of the modular approach that we took with the widgets, whereas Entergy, you'll kind of recognize the patient list across the top. So really, I think the takeaway from this is what we're trying to do is create more of a role-based approach for you. So this screen is completely customizable. Everything you see here is drag and drop, and you customize it by user. So based on your role in the practice and what you do or your specialty, you can have certain widgets show when you log in. You don't have to see all of these. And you can customize kind of what your dashboard looks like. The other idea is that really this offers us an opportunity to be much more extensible than we have been in the past. And so if you think about, longer term initiatives like maybe telehealth or maybe patient generated health data, where you may want to, see the results of some sort of data feed into your system, you can start to imagine a time in which we would have a widget that feeds you, a video feed from telehealth or from your telehealth partner, or it feeds you, patient generated health information from any devices that that you prescribe to your patients. And so really, while you don't see it here today, it kind of opens the door to some of those more innovative solutions down the line. And just kind of digging into one of these widgets so you can see what it looks like. The medication queue with a few alerts here. So one thing to note is, the single page view. We kind of use this idea of the drawer where it comes out from the left, and you can kind of see all the details there on the right. You don't have to leave and go to multiple screens to really dig into this information. And as Curtis will show you here in a moment, this is optimized both for mouse and keyboard as well as touchscreen. So these things are, you can touch and scroll, or you can scroll with the keyboard or the mouse. And so really it is designed to kind of scale back and forth between devices based on what you're using for the day. The other thing that I'll note is that we have a focus on consistency with these design patterns. In general, usability is increased when similar parts of the system are designed in similar ways. It makes it much more learnable and much more transferable across context, which then helps you as the user focus solely on the task you're trying to perform and not focused on trying to figure out what each button does. If you think about it in kind of more of a pragmatic approach, think about downloading an app, and you click, you go to try to do something in that app, your finger probably kind of naturally goes to a certain location on the screen. And when it works appropriately, it's seamless and you don't even notice it. But if you go try to perform that action and it doesn't work the way you expect it to do, it's very disruptive, and it disrupts your ability to kind of flow throughout your task. So we have a heavy focus on that with our usability and design concepts as we move forward. And lastly, I just wanted to show a view of the replatformed My Day screen. So really the point I wanted to drive in here was, again, responsive design concepts showing how it kind of scales to the form factor. So what you're seeing here is a screen that has automatically scaled down, and really reflects the user experience that you would expect from a smaller device. It really kind of has the look and feel of what an app would be like. All right, and before I pass it over to Curtis for the demonstration, there are a few points that I did, just want to kind of touch on. These are really some common questions, common themes that come up as we've gone out and talked to customers about this project. So again, I want to hone in on the fact that this is an evolution of the energy platform. This is not a brand new platform that we're starting from scratch on. It's not a fourth platform. We did analyze a variety of options at the outset of this project, and ultimately we came to the conclusion that starting with energy as the springboard really positioned us in the best place to arrive at our desired end state, within the time frame that we wanted to, as well as with the ability to deliver those enhancements to all three customer bases along the way like we wanted to. That kind of takes me to my next point here, which is we will have continued support, and not just support, but continued enhancements for Prime Suite and Success EHS. You will see that both Prime Suite and Success EHS will have an increased level of innovation as we move throughout this project. The goal there is that basically if we get to the end of this project and you're not still with us on this journey, we consider that a failure. So we want you to come with us on this journey, whether it means you migrate to the new platform today or you migrate in 2 years. We want to ensure that you continue to stay with Greenway along the way. So we will be providing enhancements to your platforms. We will still be supporting your platforms, and we will be working to provide a very smooth and seamless data migration at no cost. We plan to continue to support all of your current ancillary solutions. So this is any Greenway add-on product that you've purchased, as well as any of our marketplace partners or really any other partner that we have established that formal partnership with. This does not just include Prime Suite and Success EHS and Energy Today. It also includes Project Polaris. All of those partnerships will be coming along for the ride. So this is not a wasted investment on your part, so to speak. I've already mentioned a couple of times the smooth data migration bullet here, but really what I want to hone in on is that we have, we recognize that data migrations today, really it's an industry issue that they don't typically go as smoothly as we would like, and they can be a little bit pricey. So we do have a commitment as part of this project to fix that problem. We have a development team that is committed along the entirety of this project to be focused on how we make data migration better within our own products, so that you can make that move to Project Polaris and it not be cost prohibitive. And we will provide that migration at no cost. We are also evaluating the full inventory of all of your custom connections, devices, and things like that, so we can ensure that Project Polaris has a solution for you when you're ready to move. In terms of deployment models, we will be supporting 3 deployment models. So obviously the primary model that we've discussed a few times is what we call the shared cloud native here, which is basically cloud as you would think of a typical cloud deployment model, multi-tenant. We deploy an upgrade, everyone gets the upgrade, that sort of thing. We will also be offering private cloud, which is more or less very similar to the hosted environment we have today. You're still on the cloud native environment, but we have kind of a carve out for you so that you can kind of choose when you accept that upgrade. And this is mostly our larger customers are concerned with this deployment model, simply because of the scope of change management that must take place whenever they prepare for an upgrade. It can't just come whenever we decide to deploy it. And then we will still continue to support on-premise. And so if you are on-premise or you are self-hosted, basically if you want to retain control of that database, we will continue to support that. I will note that for this deployment model, you won't benefit from as many of the benefits you would typically get from a cloud model in terms of scalability, but you still will be able to accept the new enhancements of Project Polaris, the new user interface, and retain control of that database if you so choose. And then in terms of the pricing model, as you move to Project Polaris, again, data migration at no cost, but we also have a focus on consistent pricing. So what you pay today is what you can expect to pay when you move over. All right, and with that, I will turn it over to Curtis, who's going to take you through a live demonstration of some aspects of the software.
Hey, thank you, Danny. Let me go ahead and get my screen showing here so we can see.
Curtis, it looks good.
Okay, great. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get in here into Polaris. Kind of following up with what Danny was saying about deployment models, what I'm actually showing you here is a web application. This is connected to a Progress database, which is what Energy currently runs on, that we are hosting internally with a bunch of dummy or demo data in it. But as you can see, I'm actually just connecting in here through this web browser. So I don't have an installed client on here or anything like that. I just literally open a Chrome window and get right in here and log in using my credentials. And I'm routed right into the web application from there. So, no terminal server, no RDP, no Citrix, no published app, anything like that required for what I'm doing here. Going into sort of the design. So this is our My Day. Basically, if you guys are used to Energy EHR, you'll understand that concept. But My Day is essentially your provider dashboard. So you're going to get your appointments, your orders. Later on, you'll get your tasking. So what we're showing you is extremely, extremely early, probably somewhere between 40 and 60% complete. So we've still got a lot of dummy buttons on here. in ways that we get into some of the windows that aren't going to be there in the real application. But this should give you some idea of the look and feel. As Danny mentioned earlier, the concept of widgets sort of exists in Polaris, where you'll be able to customize these, so you'll be able to reorder them, close them out so that they're not there, just sort of control how much data is actually showing up and loading every time you come into these screens. And another concept that we have is this left nav bar. So this nav bar here always exists, and it's always in context to your user, or if you're a provider, your information. So for instance, I can open my appointments. If I want my appointments to always be on the left, I can pin it. And just like you would expect most other web applications to work, a lot of those design properties kind of are already there, so that you should, if you're a person who uses web applications and you understand things like pinning and filtering, you're just sort of used to using them. It should be fairly intuitive, and immediately when you come in here and use the application. So we have things like filters, and these icons should sort of make sense to you right off the bat. So another thing I can do, I'll start off here. I'm going to go through a workflow where we're basically going to order some immunizations, and I'll kind of point out things like this as we go along. So the first piece here, I'm going to go ahead and search for my patient. If I want my patient search to be pinned up here too, by the way, I can do that, and I can add that out so that my appointments and my patient search is always here. But if that's too much screen real estate, I can shrink it again, which I think it is, so I'll get rid of it. We'll go to, this is an adult patient. I know that this may work a little bit better on a pediatric, but there's a couple other things I want to show you in addition to immunizations. So I'll use our old Stephen Carlson here. So the first thing is, of course, this patient alerts bar. We can edit these, and we can discard them. We can close that out. These are more widgets. This is our face sheet, which is more of a dashboard sort of concept. And the same idea here. So right now we show everything because we're in a development environment, but inevitably in the when this is released, you'll be able to sort of customize this and narrow this down so that it's not so busy. It doesn't have every piece of information on it. If we go to, first thing, we'll check the immunizations here, and it looks like we got everything overdue because we don't have any data in here yet. So I'll go ahead and click on one of the immunizations and try and see if I can get this loaded up eventually. Sorry, I apologize. Like I said, it's it's still something that's being built, so we're probably dealing with some sort of connection issues. Bear with me just a moment. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we've got our immunization schedule. Right now, everything is due. Again, this is a dummy schedule, so normally you would see some predicted doses out here, but because we're 79 years old and everything was probably due when we were kids, this is a pediatric schedule. We don't see anything going in the future. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and order some vaccines. I'll do a couple other typical things, like I'll do our not given for whatever random reason. Let's see, we'll do one immune, and we'll do a couple of these that were for some reason given a few weeks ago. And I know that this isn't anywhere near clinically accurate, but like I said, I just kind of want to sort of display the look and the feel of the application. So then we'll go ahead and select our encounter, and as soon as we're done, we'll get a refresh here. This is our grid. So this is how one of the design elements that we have. We've taken the immunizations and sort of grouped them up by date instead of by dose number. So hopefully that'll kind of align the provider's view into more of a date-centric or sort of a little bit, I guess, a little bit closer to what the CDC schedule would look like versus the dose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you may be used to if you're in the EHR. So we'll kind of go back out, and a couple other things I wanted to show you guys. Another really important feature is the fact that this can be used on mobile device, as Danny mentioned. So what I'll do is I'll switch my browser here to an iPhone 5 screen size. The important thing to note here is that this is the full application. So I didn't open up a mobile version of this, and I didn't go to a different website or anything like that. This is the full EHR in a mobile view. And so as we're building this out, everything that we're doing it's important to make sure that it's all responsive and all kind of is able to fit in sort of these size screens. So that way we don't have a situation where we have, this is available on regular Polaris, but like on mobile, we don't have this feature. That's not going to be something that exists here. So we'll go in, for instance, I'll check my allergies for Stephen Carlson, and I can see the details here for that allergy. I can check his penicillin's allergy, which will work when it comes out. I can do things like I can check medications. I can check lab results right in here, right from the phone. So there's a couple different things that starts to open up down the road. So in terms of native technology for phone applications, but a lot of that stuff's still being explored. I'll also switch it to an iPad. So this is kind of like, I guess this would be the resolution for an iPad mini. So you can kind of see how that would look on a little bit larger device, something that you might more realistically be used in your actual practice. And we can turn it landscape as well and see what it looks like that way. And then also, of course, your iPad Pro, which is a much larger device. Let me fit to my window a little bit better. So that's small because it's fitting into my browser, but essentially, no matter which device you put it on, it's formatted to fit that screen. And so that way, no matter where you go, you're going to have your full application all within the web browser there, and without having to go through the trouble or use any of the cumbersome sort of remote connect applications or anything like that. If you can use a web browser on that device, you can come into Polaris and work on whichever you need. We're also trying to make sure that things are responsive to sort of touch commands. So a lot of that stuff we're still actually building, but if you're noticing during the demonstration, this little gray circle, this is the Chrome browser's emulation of your touch point. So as I'm moving this around, this sort of simulates your fingertip, and it'll allow you to do things like here you can sort of swipe and scroll this way, and any other sort of little gestures and things like that that would naturally your hand should naturally do as you're in a mobile on a mobile platform. Those kinds of things will still work exactly like you would expect. So a lot of it is very intuitive. Our design team does a lot of painstaking work, and we do a lot of development and testing to make sure that they work in different platforms on different window sizes, and make sure that the application itself is as portable as possible. Let's see, another thing that kind of allows us to do that. One of the things that's important is to know that the reason we're able to do this is part of that replatforming effort, and this all has to do with essentially rebuilding our client side on all the newer technologies that sort of allow us to do this. So, and then like I mentioned, this is essentially a new front end, but this is all data that's pulling over from an energy database that's currently running within a Progress, basically emulating what you would have on-prem if you're an energy customer, right inside the Progress backend. And I think that's it. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to, is it James or Danny taking back over? I don't remember which one.
I'll be taking it back over. Thank you, Curtis. That was great information. Let me share my screen very quickly. I'm going to wrap things up today, just briefly talking about some additional engagement opportunities for those of you that do have some interest in participating in this journey that Danny and Curtis have talked about today. So the Customer Advisory Board is our strategic group that kicked off back at the beginning of May. It's a diverse group composed of all three of our platforms and several specialties. But what I want to talk about more is our focus groups that are available. We have 36 focus groups. You'll see there noting, scheduling, e-prescribing. So all of the wow factors that we've talked about today will be focus groups. Is it not sharing? I apologize, I haven't been sharing my screen. So once it loads here, there we go. We will have 36 focus groups that are available, noting, scheduling, e-prescribing, all the wow factors that we've talked about, as well as several other enhancements as well. We will begin holding those focus groups in July, and I want to show you here on the screenshots from the new My Greenway, formerly called the customer community, how you can get to the form to sign up for the focus groups. When you get to the homepage of My Greenway, which is accessed through greenwayhealth.com, you'll see a tab on the bottom left called Resources, and when you click on that, a menu comes out that shows the Project Polaris Focus Groups link. When you click on that link, it'll immediately open up the questionnaire that you can fill out. You can tell us exactly which areas of Project Polaris and which focus groups you want to be included in, and submit that. You will receive a confirmation message, and we will have your information. After that, we will reach out to you when those focus groups begin forming. And lastly today, I want to talk about Engage. This is coming up here rather quickly. We're going to be in Washington, D.C. this year. We're going to have a lot of opportunities to learn more about Project Polaris. We have several courses available. We have roadmap courses, we have technical courses, we have clinically focused courses. So lots of opportunities to come and learn more, and we would love to see you there. So to wrap things up today, I want to thank Danny, I want to thank Curtis, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to working more with you on this in the future. We've received some great questions today. Thank you so much for the engagement. And like I said at the beginning of today's webinar, we will be getting back to all of you with answers to those questions that you submitted. With that, we'll close things down, and everybody have a great rest of your day. Thank you.